I have a child. We were once friends. She would tell me how she was related to you. She was very proud. Sorry, there is it and murder Alec in Bonanza. Adam and Haas Cartwright are two brothers who couldn't be more different. On one side is Adam, the smart, calm architect who always thinks before he draws his gun. On the other is Haas, the gentle giant whose smile is wider than his cowboy hat, with a heart of gold that makes every viewer want to give him a hug. On screen, they're family. But behind the scenes, things were far more complicated. Their contrast wasn't just for the cameras. It reflected the two actors who played them, Pernell Roberts and Dan Blocker. Then, one day, everything took a turn no one expected. Dan Blocker suddenly passed away at 43, leaving Hollywood and Bonanza fans in shock. Yet among the flowers, tears and farewells, one person didn't appear: Pernell Roberts, the eldest brother on screen. The man who once rode across Ponderosa with Dan did not attend the funeral. Was it resentment, old conflicts, or a pain so deep he couldn't bear to face it in public? All those mysteries are what today's video will unravel. Pernell Roberts and Dan Blocker were two parallel paths, two destinies that eventually led them to very different choices before life suddenly thrust them into the greatest tragedy of all, the loss of Dan Blocker. To millions of viewers, Dan Blocker was Haas Cartwright, a gentle, funny, kind-hearted giant no one could dislike. But off-screen, Dan was even more admirable. He was one of the rare TV stars who genuinely had no interest in fame, fortune, or Hollywood applause. Dan didn't live to be known. He lived to be a husband, a father, and a good man. And that humility made his sudden death one of the most devastating shocks in Bonanza's history and in all of Hollywood. Despite being one of the most beloved actors of the 1960s, Dan never liked attention. He hated glamorous parties, flashy interviews, and especially the feeling of being treated like a celebrity. To him, the spotlight was just a job. Family was real life. After filming, instead of going to events or chasing bigger roles, Dan always went straight home. He loved spending time with his wife and children, having dinner together, teaching the kids to swim, or driving the family out on little trips. He once said, "Fame doesn't sustain me. Family does." Friends recalled that he was the first to arrive on set and the first to leave, not out of boredom, but because he wanted to be home for dinner. In Hollywood's calculating world, Dan Blocker was a rare exception, a famous man who didn't want fame. By 1970, Bonanza's popularity kept growing, and with it, the pressure on Dan. He feared his children would grow up under constant scrutiny. He worried fame would seep into his family life. So, he made a surprising but deeply thoughtful decision. He moved his entire family to Switzerland. They chose a quiet lakeside area where life revolved around nature, small paths, and church bells. There, no one called him Haas. No one asked for autographs. No reporters waited outside. For the first time in years, Dan lived like a normal person. He said he could breathe easier, feel lighter, walking around without being recognized. Switzerland wasn't a getaway. It was a refuge, a way to shield his family from the heat of stardom. In 1972, Dan Blocker went into the hospital for gallbladder surgery, a simple routine procedure thousands undergo every day. No one imagined it would be the last time anyone saw Hoss Cartwright alive. Right after the operation, Dan suffered a pulmonary embolism, a rare but extremely dangerous complication. Within hours, he was gone, suddenly, unexpectedly, at age 43, with his career still at its peak. The news hit Hollywood like an explosion. No one could believe that the warm, strong, cheerful man they adored was gone so soon. Michael Landon, who played Little Joe, later revealed, "Whenever I needed to cry in a scene, I just thought about Dan's death. That's all it took." And the tears came. For his castmates, it wasn't just losing a colleague. It was losing a brother, a dear friend, a piece of Bonanza's soul. When Dan died, Bonanza faced a painful decision. Should they cast someone new as Hoss, pretend he went away, or confront the truth with the respect it deserved? David Dortort and Michael Landon understood one thing clearly. No one could replace Dan Blocker. No one could play Hoss. Hoss wasn't just a character. He was the heart of the show. So, they made a historic decision. Hoss Cartwright would die. It was the first time in American TV history that a major series openly let a character die, because the actor had passed away in real life. No hiding, no pretending, no replacement. It sent a powerful message: Hoss is gone. The Cartwright family has lost a son, and we can't act like it didn't happen. The first episode after Dan's death opened with a heavy, somber atmosphere. No one explained how Hoss died, because sometimes silence hurts more than any explanation. But one look at Ben Cartwright, or Little Joe, told viewers the grief was real. And from then on, Bonanza was never the same. Not because they lost a character, but because they lost a soul. Dan Blocker's death didn't just shake Hollywood. It changed American television. A gentle mountain had fallen, leaving behind a void no one could ever fill. And from that tragedy, the mystery surrounding why Pernell Roberts didn't attend the funeral became even more puzzling, leading fans to wonder for decades, why was the oldest brother missing on the day they said goodbye to the younger one on screen? When Dan Blocker's death was announced, Hollywood was stunned. Fans across America sent flowers, wrote letters, and shared memories of the gentle giant they adored. Colleagues cried on set. But amid the mourning, one controversial detail immediately stood out. Pernell Roberts didn't attend the funeral. His absence became the center of endless rumors. On screen, Adam and Hoss were brothers bound like blood. So why wasn't the big brother there for Dan's final farewell? Fans quickly came up with theories. Some said Pernell didn't get along with the Bonanza cast and had criticized the show, so he didn't want to return to the world he'd left behind. Others believed old tensions still lingered, and Pernell wanted to avoid the press asking about his departure or his relationship with Dan. Some simply thought he was cold or indifferent. But all those speculations barely scratched the surface. The truth was that Pernell Roberts